The history you were taught was deliberately incomplete. Africans stood on American soil long before the first slave ship ever sailed. This is not debate. This is documented, suppressed, and now restored.
They told you one story, they locked the other one away, but the evidence was always there, waiting for this very day. Oh.
Blacks did not only come here in chains, they walked this land before the suffering and pain, before 1619, before the auction block was built. Africans were already here, and that truth was covered with guilt. In 1311, the ruler of the Mali Empire, Mansa Bakr II, surrendered his throne to pursue the unknown. He assembled 2,000 boats, loaded them with provisions, navigators and soldiers, and sailed west in the waters no Mali king had ever shown. He handed power to his brother Mansa before departed, telling him he needed to discover what lay beyond the Atlantic horizon. He never returned to Mali. Disappearance fueled centuries of historical inquiry, academic tension, and scholarly division. Scholar Ivan Van Sertima published his research in 1976 in a book titled They Came Before Columbus. He compiled linguistic connections, botanical parallels, and deep cultural similarities that created enormous academic fuss. He documented how certain plants native to West Africa appeared in pre-Columbian America with no European involvement in their spread. He pointed to the Olmec, colossal stone heads in Mexico, some standing 11 feet tall, carved from basalt, weighing 40 tons, as he said. The facial structures on those heads, the broad noses, full lips, and high cheekbones did not match the indigenous populations locally known. Trade wind studies by maritime scientists confirm that natural oceanic currents from West Africa flow directly toward the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean coast. It's shown. These are not myths invented for emotional comfort. These are peer-reviewed arguments presented in academic journals and university halls. The truth about African presence in pre-Columbian America was not lost. It was deliberately pushed behind closed walls.
They told you one story, they locked the other one away, but the evidence was always there, waiting for this very day.
Blacks did not only come here in chains,
They walked this land before the suffering and pain, before 1619, before the auction block was built. Africans were already here, and that truth was covered with guilt.
In 1527, Estevanico, a Moroccan African, arrived on American shores with the Spanish expedition under Narvaez. He explored Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona nearly 90 years before English settlers arrived, navigating those territories for days upon days. When Africans reached Jamestown in 1619, records confirm not all were classified as slaves upon their arrival. Some were indentured servants who earned their freedom, acquired land, and secured their legal survival. Anthony Johnson completed his indenture, became a landowner, and hired workers of his own. Chattel slavery was not legally codified until 1662, 43 years after 1619. A fact most Americans have never been shown. The Black Seminoles of Florida integrated into Native American nations, fought 3 wars against the United States government, and refused removal. Their resistance and survival represent African presence and power
In America, it goes far beyond what schools teach about approval.
The lie was simple,
Keep them believing they only arrived in chains,
but the documented record
tells a completely different story of where Black history began on these plains.
Archaeology, linguistics, botanical studies, and maritime science all point in the same direction with documented compliance. The African presence in the Americas predates the Middle Passage by centuries of recorded time. The suppression of this knowledge was not accidental. It was executed by deliberate design.
When the people do not know the fullness of their history, they cannot understand their identity or their worth. The restoration of this truth is not propaganda.
It is the rightful return
of what was taken from the earth.
The lie that black people only came to America as slaves has now been confronted with the historical record it could not outrun. From the Mali Empire sailors of 1311 who crossed the Atlantic under the West African sun, to Estevanico,
walking the American Southwest
before English exploration
had even begun.
From the Olmec stone heads
carrying African features carved into the soul that has lasted for thousands of years.
To Anthony Johnson,
the African indentured servant who became a landowner and fought for his rights without fear.
The full history of black people in America does not begin on a slave ship.
In 1919, on the Virginia shore.
History was rewritten by empires. Before slavery ships crossed the Atlantic, Africans already crossed oceans as sailors, soldiers, scholars, and traders, long before chains arrived. The history of black people in America did not begin in cotton fields. Long before European colonies were established, African civilizations were trading across deserts, rivers, and seas. The Mali Empire controlled gold routes that financed entire economies. African sailors navigated Atlantic waters centuries before Columbus sailed west. Historians recorded stories of African explorers reaching distant lands before European conquest began. In Islamic libraries, maps describe routes across oceans that Europeans later claimed to discover first. North African diplomats visited European kingdoms while Europe was still struggling through feudal wars. Black generals commanded armies in Spain during the era of Moorish rule. African knowledge shaped mathematics, astronomy, architecture, medicine, and navigation. The city of Timbuktu held universities filled with books, while many European cities had little formal education. The transatlantic slave trade later erased these achievements from public memory. European powers built an economic system that depended on forced labor. Millions of Africans were captured through wars, raids, and colonial agreements. Families were separated permanently at ports across West Africa. Names, languages, religions, and identities were stripped away during transport.
Slave ships
carried human beings across the Atlantic under conditions designed for profit, not survival. Entire economies in Europe and America were built from unpaid African labor. Plantations expanded because enslaved workers produced tobacco, sugar, rice, and cotton. Banks, ports, shipping companies, and insurance firms became wealthy from slavery. The myth was later created that black history in America started only in bondage. That false story ignored African civilizations that existed long before colonialism.
They erased kingdoms, they erased scholars, they erased explorers and sailors, then they replaced the story with chains alone.
Black history did not begin with slavery. Africa had empires before Europe built colonies. The Atlantic carried traders before they carried slave ships. The truth survived even when history books tried to bury it. In the Americas, free black populations existed alongside enslaved communities from the earliest colonial periods. Some Africans arrived as translators, navigators, soldiers, and laborers before plantation slavery fully expanded. Spanish records documented Africans participating in exploration missions throughout the New World. Black cowboys worked cattle routes across Mexico and the American South. African mariners served aboard European ships,
During the age of exploration, runaway enslaved Africans formed independent settlements across the Americas. And Haiti, enslaved people launched the only successful slave revolution in modern history. That revolution terrified colonial governments across Europe and North America. Frederick Douglass later challenged the United States to confront its hypocrisy about liberty. Harriet Tubman guided enslaved families to freedom through dangerous escape networks. Black soldiers fought in the American Revolution and the Civil War. Segregation later replaced slavery with another system of control. Jim Crow laws restricted voting, housing, education, and economic opportunity. Redlining blocked black families from building generational wealth. Textbooks often minimize African achievements while glorifying colonial expansion. Movies and media repeated stereotypes that disconnected black identity from ancient history. But historical evidence
continued to survive through oral traditions, archaeological discoveries, and written records. Modern historians are now re-examining old assumptions about exploration and migration. African influence can still be seen in language, music, food, religion, and culture throughout the Americas.
The story of black people is larger than slavery alone. It includes resistance,
innovation,
survival,
leadership,
and civilization.
Stretching back thousands of years.
They taught change without teaching kingdoms.
They taught plantations without teaching empires.
But history cannot stay buried forever. Every generation inherits the responsibility to question official narratives. When history is controlled, identity is controlled. When identity is controlled, power is protected. Truth becomes dangerous to systems built on selective memory.
The past is not changing.
Only the story people were allowed to hear is changing. And once the full history is revealed,
the old narrative begins to collapse.